Yesterday I tried to learn the word good morning so I could greet you in Polish, but the only word they taught me was Polish mad dog, so my head's still a little bit fuzzy from the vodka. Let's get to know each other first. What type of developers are you? What languages do you program in? How many of you program in PHP? Quite a few. In Java? Okay. .NET? Ruby? Python? So do we have anything that we missed? Any other languages? No? Okay. Cool. Well, my name is Ivo. I'm the CTO of iBuildings, and we're basically a PHP company. We're about 85 people, and we are based in the Netherlands and in the UK. And we do anything that's PHP related. So we do training, development, consultancy. The only thing that is really common across all our projects is that it's PHP based. But since we don't have, since we also have other people here that are doing PHP, I made my presentation a bit more generic, so I made it about dynamic languages. But I'm really a PHP guy, so if I mention PHP somewhere here, just think that the topic basically applies to other languages as well. So what I wanted to talk about today is, enterprise development with these scripting languages, because we've all started in our ethics with building simple websites, but nowadays scripting languages such as PHP and Ruby and Python are used in really serious environments. So that's what I want to talk about today. The first thing we have to look at is, what is an enterprise? We say enterprise development and enterprise readiness. If you look it up in Wikipedia, basically this is the definition. Any ship from the Star Trek universe, that's the enterprise. Of course, that's not the thing I'm talking about today. An enterprise is basically a business or a company, so professional usage of scripting languages. When I made this presentation, I made a list of the top 10 Polish websites based on the Alexa.com, and I'm assuming most of you know a lot of these domains. Actually quite confusing for me because, I see all these domains ending in .pl and I think everything is written in Perl because that's, the Perl extension. But I had a look at, what are the languages that people use in big websites like this? If you look at that, and it's quite interesting that there's some Java in there, but most of it is PHP and there's some Python in there. So most of these really big websites are written in scripting languages. So that means that even with scripting languages, and a lot of people say, hey, it's just a scripting language, you can't do any real development with it, but you can run actually high traffic websites with these scripting languages. If you take a look here, then you see that about 80% of the top 10 websites that are used in Poland are written in scripting languages. So that's an interesting thing. So if we look at how scripting languages are progressing throughout the enterprise, and what we see here is a graph where in the bottom you have the small office, home office, so that's are the hobbyist users, and the small independent web contractors. In the middle you have the small to medium enterprises, so the smaller companies, and at the top we have the enterprise companies. The green line represents the growth of scripting languages in those areas, and if you look closely then you see that the small office, home office users, scripting languages are really big there already. Most of us are using things like PHP and Ruby there. In the medium enterprises, we're about halfway there, and in the enterprise we're basically just starting. Java is just seeing PHP and Python and Ruby as their competitor just now. It's just starting in the enterprise. We start to see it in companies like banks, like insurance companies, but it's fairly new there. But as we progress more towards the right, we'll see that even in the enterprise, we'll see more and more scripting languages. So one question we often hear about scripting languages, are they enterprise ready? Enterprise ready means that you can use them in a professional environment. I'd like to say that there are a lot of companies, that are supporting these scripting languages in the enterprise. For example, IBM has a new product called WebSphere Smash that's basically written to make it possible to use things like PHP and Groovy in enterprise environments. It's basically an enterprise tool that allows enterprises to build business applications in scripting languages. Oracle has long been a supporter of languages like PHP with their support. They even provide native support for PHP in Oracle drivers. We as a company, iBuildings, we also support enterprise usage of PHP because we have a lot of enterprise customers where we create business applications, websites, and a lot of things in the enterprise environment. And one that you might not expect is Microsoft. Microsoft is really interesting because Microsoft is traditionally seen as a .NET company and with their own closed source technologies. But Microsoft is actually pushing support for PHP on the Windows platform now. So actually Microsoft even believes that PHP and other scripting languages, Microsoft even does things like Iron Ruby, Iron Python. They really believe that scripting languages are a serious alternative for applications in the enterprise. So even Microsoft is supporting that big time. When you look at, when you compare these scripting languages to something left traditionally very big in the enterprise, something like Java, you see basically, Java is considered big. It's like considered, bulky software. It's enterprise friendly, but I sometimes wonder if that shouldn't be enterprise with a C, because it's quite expensive to do a Java project. And to do Java, you have to have like a computer science degree to be able to write something. So how do we position all these scripting languages that are small and lightweight and they're really cheap? How do we position them against something really big as enterprise? Well, they're really easy to learn, except Perl, that's really a bitch to learn, it's really complex. But how do we position these small languages against this big mammoth of Java in the enterprise? Well, my girlfriend always likes to say, it's not the size of the tool, it's how you use it. But that's what we have to look at. I always like to look at things by using metaphors, because that makes it easy to visualize things. The traditional metaphor for looking at scripting languages is it's like a box of Lego. You have a lot of bricks and you can build a lot of things with it. But I think that metaphor no longer holds up, because the web is no longer a toy. We're no longer just making blogs and making contents websites. We're making actually serious, transaction-driven financial websites, banking software. There's a lot of serious stuff that's out there. So I think, a toy is no longer a good metaphor. So I always like to use the metaphor of actual bricks, because we're really building really actual complex buildings now. So how can you compare bricks to, scripting languages? Like scripting languages, bricks are, really simple. You can build anything with it. It's easy to learn. It's really cheap, and you can build a lot of buildings with it. So let's look at 10 steps, to make use of scripting languages in the enterprise and to improve the process so that you can do serious development with scripting languages. The first step you always have to do is to look at your team. Well, this is an example of a letter that I once got. A lot of developers, sent me letters like this. I've built something. I've built a family shed, or in the web development case, they've built a little blog, and now they want to work on serious projects. And I'm not sure about you, but if you do enterprise development, you really don't want the guy that makes, little sheds like this to build you a skyscraper. So what you have to do is, use actual software engineers. Even if you do scripting languages, software engineering skills are very important. You have to train those skills. It's not enough to just, be coding all day. You have to train those skills. Make sure you have knowledge about new technologies, because all these technologies are evolving a lot. Also, it's very useful to study object-oriented principles. Everybody that has done PHP or Python, you do some object-oriented code, but many use it to just, wrap a class around a set of methods and then they think they have an object. But object-oriented coding is actually a lot more than that. And to really make use of object-oriented coding in all the scripting languages, it's useful to study the object-oriented principles. Just buy a book about, object-oriented design or object-oriented theory, and it really helps you empower those scripts. Also, you might want to consider certification. I'm not sure about Perl or Python or Ruby, but I know that, for example, for PHP, there's certification by Zend certification. And I wouldn't say that the certification makes you smarter, but by just studying for the certification, you get to know a lot of things that you may never have looked at. By just studying the study guide, by going through the book, by learning for your exam, you might see new technologies that you've never knew about. Hey, I didn't know it could do this. Hey, I didn't know this function existed. And that's really useful if you, study for a certification exam to learn a lot about a language. The second step is to look at, at the requirements of an application. Many people that use scripting languages, they say, hey, I need a website, and they immediately start coding. They start hacking away, creating templates, creating code. But it's actually really useful to first, define what your customer actually needs. Because your customer might say, in our metaphor for a building, hey, I need a building. But it can mean anything from like a simple shed